Hi everyone, Kathy here, and I am just setting one more thing up and then I will be right with you. Hi everyone, Kathy here, and I am just setting one more thing up and then I will be right with you. Okay, we should all be together now. I think that we are live in our group. Good evening, everyone. I'm just checking to make sure we're there. It looks like we are. Very good. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm very excited to have you all here with me. And I will just give you a little bit of background before we start talking about the 3 must-knows before publishing. So thank you everyone for joining my group. I hope it's been beneficial for you so far. What I've noticed is that there's been a lot of questions on publishing and getting started. So that's what we want to work on here, is getting us ready for that. So, first about myself, I'm Kathy Wheeler, and I'm a teacher of how to self-publish. I'm the editor of Book Writing Magazine, and also I have written and published 6 books, including an Amazon bestseller. And so I want to share with you a little bit of my know-how. I started this journey about 4 years ago. When I first started, I went to a conference where they were offering services for upwards of $25,000. And that really shocked me. So what I decided, people really need to be educated before they get into the publishing process. Because I knew that this person that I talked with who paid the $25,000 at that event didn't know her other options, and maybe the $25,000 package was the right one for her, but I just think it's better to go into things informed. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to go over these 3 must-knows to give you a broad overview of the publishing process and answer any questions that you have. So the first one is to know your goal. So it's very important to know your book goal because it will help you keep focused and help determine the best publishing method. There are many reasons for writing a book. So for nonfiction, it might be to build your credibility, share your message, gain exposure, build your list, really overall to help you build your business and get clients. Fiction, you might just have a story that you've been dying to tell since you were a child. Really, between the 2 categories, over 80% of people want to write a book in their lifetime. So few do, though. So good for you for learning a bit here and getting a step closer to your goal. So the second thing that you need to know, the second must-know that we're going to spend quite a bit of time on tonight is to know your publishing options. This is key. There are so many options out there. There is a right answer for you, but there is not a one-size-fits-all answer. Each person's situation is unique, which is why it's so important to know the goal for your book, to understand your why, the purpose, and what you are doing. And even sometimes your goals can change throughout. After you know the publishing options, you might even decide to change your goal. So there are 3 broad publishing options. There's traditional publishing, self-publishing, and contract publishing, which can also be called vanity publishing. There's a lot of other names and models for this. So this the contract publishing is probably the one with the most variety in it. And that is the one that was that $25,000 I told you about. So first we'll talk about traditional publishing for several slides. So with traditional publishing, there is a different process for both fiction and nonfiction. So depending on which you are writing, it will be different. So we're doing nonfiction here. Nonfiction usually starts with a book proposal. And we're not going to get into the process so much as we're going to talk about some of the overall big picture items with traditional publishing tonight. So in literary circles, traditional publishing definitely has more prestige, although this is changing considerably. There are many traditionally published authors in both fiction and nonfiction who are using both traditional publishers as well as self-publishing their works. In business circles, it generally does not matter. So if you go to get a speaking engagement, they know you have a book. I have yet to hear of anyone being asked if it's self-published or traditionally published. In the business world, it just doesn't seem to matter in terms of prestige level. With traditional publishing, it typically takes years to get your book out there. So the publishing houses have their schedules, and they're looking for certain genres, certain topics that are hot, but it takes a long time to get through the entire process. Really, it typically takes years after the writing is done. So, along with traditional publishing, the big drawback to it is it's very difficult to get your foot in the door. So 96% of manuscripts agents receive are rejected. And if you're one of those lucky 4%, they still have to sell it. The agent still has to take your manuscript and sell it to the publisher. So there's still more waiting after that and no guarantees. I don't have a solid number on how many manuscripts that get selected by an agent go on to the publisher. I imagine it varies quite a bit by agent, genre, and category for nonfiction. The numbers I've read are anywhere from 5% to 50%. So I think if you have a highly reputable agent, which would be harder to get into, that the likelihood is higher. So, and in terms of your agent and how they make their money based on commission. You do not pay them up front. So they earn a commission on your author earnings that would come from the publisher. So that's one reason that they're highly selective of the manuscripts. Well, one, they don't have much time, but two, they have to know that it's a manuscript that they can sell. So just because they don't pick your manuscript doesn't mean it's not a good book. It just means it might not be their strong area for selling. They might know that the publishers that they work with or prefer are not looking for that type of book now. There's all sorts of reasons that good manuscripts get rejected. And really, not everyone has the same taste in books, so it might just be a matter of preference. I'm sure you've heard about John Grisham, J.K. Rowling, and others, sending it to upwards of 30 agents and being rejected. Actually, recently I was at a writers' conference where one agent was talking about rejecting manuscripts, and he's a highly reputable agent, has been in the business for 20 plus years when he rejected what is now a best-selling author. #1 New York Times, USA Today, everything best-selling author. So he's just was using that as an illustration that even agents make mistakes in selecting the good ones. Once you are picked by a traditional publisher, it's important to know that 50% of the books fail in the marketplace. So they don't produce the profits. That's important to know. I've heard that higher as up to 80 at a conference I was at, but I'm going with a more conservative number here. So one reason a lot of people think that they want a traditional publisher is because of the marketing support. They think that they're going to get all these book tours at Barnes and Noble, all these commercials, and whatnot. But really that has thinned out and almost disappeared, especially for new authors over the years. And that's why many of the traditionally published authors are switching to self-publishing or doing a combination of the both of them. So one of the things, especially in nonfiction, that the publishing companies look for and agents look for is what they call your agent platform. Your agent platform is essentially your social media or the number of followers you have. So your newsletter, subscribers, etc. So it's good to start building that now, even if you're not thinking that traditional publishing is what's right for you. But just so you know, do not traditionally publish for the marketing support. You need to do it for other reasons, not for the marketing support. In fact, I just received a message a week or two ago from a friend whose wife published, and he said that she was with a big name publisher. I won't name the publisher. It was nonfiction, and she sold 50,000 books to the publisher, but he said they received no support, and he could have done much better with self-publishing. Or they could have done much better with self-publishing. So they wanted to talk to me about some strategies for that. So just so you know, it's not as glamorous, I guess, is a good way of putting it, as you might think. So I told you the reason not to pick self-publishing, or traditional publishing, which was the marketing. But the reason to pick it is if you've always had the dream in your heart to be traditionally published, and you want the prestige. I think if there's anyone who feels strong enough about wanting to traditionally publish, that they shouldn't be discouraged from trying. I do think, I thought I had one more point on there. I do think that you need to set limits for yourself, though, to try traditional publishing for X amount of agent rejections or X amount of time before looking at the other options. Some of you might know from the get-go that you don't want to do traditional publishing. So a little bit about my past again. It was about 20 years ago that I wrote my first manuscript, and it was a fiction manuscript. I made it partway through. Things have changed, obviously, in the last couple, 15, 20 years. I was going through a publisher who would take them directly, so I had made it several steps into their process before I was rejected, and then all sorts of things happened. My life changed. I got food poisoning, had brain damage, just all sorts of things in my life happened. I'm sure you guys have your excuses when you've stopped writing. And then it was 4 or 5 years ago, which I got back into it again. When I got back into it, that's when self-publishing had just really started to blossom, and it was being heard about all over. And I just decided to go that route because I'm a real self-starter. I'm very determined. I know how to figure things out and make them work. So I decided that that was a better route for me at that point. And I am so glad that that's what I did. So going on to that, we will talk about self-publishing. But like I said, I do not discourage people who want to try traditional publishing from doing that first. So what is self-publishing? Well, self-publishing is where you are like the general contractor in building a home. So you oversee the editing, the cover design, the interior design, and all of the other publishing steps. It gives you complete control of what happens. You can get your book out there when you want. And one concern people have are the costs. Well, you do print on demand, so you don't have to buy the books up front. There's no initial printing cost for you. On average, it costs, it all depends on the length of the book and if it's color or not. But most of the nonfiction books that people I know write cost around $3 for the author to order to have their own copies. So, and you have to pay nothing. If a customer orders that, they just take that out of your royalties if the customer orders on Amazon. So you're not paying them any upfront fees, which is huge for a lot of people. You used to hear a lot about, and you still do hear some, where people end up with thousands of copies of their books in their garage, so they have to figure out how to distribute. With self-publishing, you can do both paperback and ebook. Those are the most popular forms. It is possible to do a hardcover, but then some of the dynamics change, and so we're really not going into that at all tonight. If there's other questions, we could cover that at another time. We're just strictly talking about paperbacks and ebooks here. So there are so many platforms out there that make your book available on all sorts of markets. The ones that I highly recommend are the ones that use Amazon, and we'll explain why in the next slide. I do a lot of work with CreateSpace, which gives you the paperback books, and through their distribution process, it is open to libraries, academic institutions, and other places. CreateSpace is an Amazon company. So now they also have a second publishing company, which is called Kindle Direct Publishing, or KDP Publishing, you might have heard if you follow the industry. They do both paperback and Kindle. So paperback is a newer development within the Kindle Direct Publishing. They still have both now, and we're not going to get into the nuances of the differences between the two. That's something as you further define that, yes, you want to do self-publishing, that you look at some of these options. There are also many others out there, but this is why I think it's great for a starter to concentrate on Amazon and then maybe add more as they get going. And here it is. This is from authorearnings.com. It's U.S. ebook sales from 2016. And you see Amazon has 76% of the market share. And Apple iBooks is next with 12%. The others make up a very small percentage of the remainder. So really, if you get your book out there on Amazon, you're going to hit the majority of the market. And it's just a nice, easy way to start and to really make a huge impact. You can, though, if you want to, you can do the Apple iBooks, the Nook, all of that if you want. But I think it's less overwhelming to go into it just thinking about doing it through Amazon. So again, your publishing options, self-publishing, one concern that people have is the know-how. So there are tons of services to guide you through this. I offer two different services. One is a course that I have coming up on how to write and publish your book in 90 days. That's for nonfiction books. And then I also do the publishing part as a separate course too. I also work one-on-one for clients and help coach them on how to write the book. That's involved in the class too, but I help coach them on how to write the book, and then I can either teach them how to publish or else they can do it themselves or hire me to do it. If you're up for it, you can find the information online. You can search and patch and piece it all together. It's out there. Just like, who is that lady? I think it's Hope Brookins, maybe, who built her own house by watching YouTube videos. So I think that anything you put your mind to, you can do yourself if you do enough searching online. But sometimes it's just easier, more comforting, feels safer to work with someone who's done it before to help you through the process. But self-publishing is such a great and easy way to get your book out there for readers, to build your business if that's your intention for your book, or to just share your stories if you're a fiction writer. So our second thing that we're still on, our second know-how, is still publishing options, but we're going into contract publishing. So sorry if the numbering's confusing, but I wanted to keep it as our second must-know is the publishing options. So contract publishing has many names. So the most recent I saw in a Facebook group was contract publishing, which is why I opted for that broad name. But it's also known as vanity publishing, paid publishing, and there's other names out there too that people come up with. Essentially, what this is you pay the publisher to do the full package of editing and publishing. So it's more expensive than self-publishing, and the price really varies, but this is upwards of $25,000, like I mentioned earlier. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. One thing that I really caution with with these contract publishers is that you really know the company and their reputation. There are several companies out there who there's bad things that you hear about online, and sometimes they're deceptive. But just like that's going to be the case with anything. So just no matter what service you go with, do your research. And I'm sure you will find positive and negative reviews on just about everything. But you really need to do your research and understand what you're getting into. And one thing with this contract publishing is you don't have as much control as self-publishing. So some of the stories I've heard is people have been unhappy with their cover, but they didn't really have any more chances to talk with the designer because they were only allotted so many times. I've heard stories such as that. And then just it was a different experience than they expected. So this is an overview of your publishing options. So you have the three options. There's traditional, which is good if prestige is what you're going for, and if you have the time and patience. But definitely put a deadline on how long you are going to try for this before moving on to the next steps. I think I might have already said I had a friend who tried for a year, she's a fiction writer, before going on the self-publishing route. The second option is to self-publish. If you're determined and a self-starter, this is such a great option for you. If you want control over when your book gets out there and are really looking to build your business or an entrepreneur, this is, I think, the best option for you. It means you definitely want a published book. You can go with this route. And contract publisher is maybe you don't like to learn new things or manage projects. Then that is probably the best time to do that. The third must know is that you must have an editor. No matter which publishing model you choose, no matter what your goals are, you need to have your book professionally edited. So with traditional publishing, yes, you need to have it professionally edited prior to sending it to an agent. So you will definitely want to do this. Self-publishing, yes. Bad editing is actually the #1 complaint in negative reviews on Amazon for self-published books. And with contract publishing, yes, you will choose, along with the publisher that you pay, what level of editing you need to have done prior to submitting. So yes, I think you should have it edited on your own. Hire a book editor before you submit it to any of these sites. You will want to hire a professional book editor. And again, to summarize our 3 must-knows, you need to know your book goals. You need to know your type of publishing. You need to hire an editor. Those are 3 must-knows for publishing. So we're going to go on to questions and answers, but first I wanted to let you know that I am starting a new session of the 90-day book at the end of May. This is a class that guides you through step-by-step how to write and publish your nonfiction book in 90 days. We go through everything from starting with the fears to structuring and really working out the goals of your book through the end of publishing. I am doing a separate class for those who already have a manuscript or maybe those who are fiction writers who just want to know how to publish their book. So there's more details to come. But if you would like to talk with me on your book goals, I'm happy to do a 15-minute consult on that via my Zoom room. So I'd be happy if anybody wants that you can private message me or just put it in the comments. And I will be happy to do that. But now let's go to questions. If you just want to type in your questions, it looks like we have some viewers on here still, so. I am not seeing any questions. Could somebody just type in the comment box to make sure that I'm at least seeing your, at least seeing something in there? Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything in there, so I hope that I didn't miss anyone's questions. If you do have questions, post them below. in the comments, and I will be happy to come back and answer them at any time. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope this has given you kind of an overview. Again, any questions, I'll be happy to answer. So post them below, and have a good evening. Thank you.